Okay, let's see here. Left front tire. Right front tire. You can tell by the direction of the arrow. Footrest protectors. Not sure why we need those. Hardware to install the footrest protectors. Looks like replacement lug nuts. Hardware bag for the front brackets. And hardware bag for the rear. So left rear and right rear. And these screws are long enough to go from there to here. Alright. Hopefully they sent me everything I need for the project. There you have it. Stay tuned. Let's get started. Yep, 14mm on this side and 12 on that. You know, sometimes the Japanese have some really weird thought processes about engineering. Socket, or one of them. Well, good thing I read the instructions again, because this bolt has to go through there ahead of time, because it will not fit. So I gotta do the same thing here. That bolt goes through there. There we go. Looks like it's supposed to use the nuts that have the flange on it. Oh, and I went through the manual, and parts diagram shows different part numbers from left and right. But those part numbers on the manual don't match anything that's printed on this. And both of these have the exact same part number stamped on them, which is the... Where'd it go? Right here. I don't know if that's going to show up, but it says S4RR. Both of them. But they're not exactly the same. One has it stamped on the front, and one has it stamped on the back. So, there we go. By the way, this is the right rear axle that we're working on. It's going to show. So the bottom is fairly flush, but there's a gap in there. It's like these things need to be an inch longer. They need to stick out to here. Maybe. I don't know. This is not square tubing, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. I don't like the idea of that digging into my A-arm, where I wind up having to replace it every year. Okay, and for the big reveal on why we're doing this, here we go. That's some heavy some bitch. Alright, so these puppies are really expensive. Almost as much as what my quad is worth. But it hopefully gets me through part of December and into May, where I can't get up in the mountains because there's too much snow. So I turned my ATV into a quasi-snowmobile. I've talked to some people that own snowmobiles and own quads with tracks, and they say the tracks are the way to go. So we're going to give it a shot and see if I can get up to my favorite spots this year, if I can get this thing installed correctly. Because once I get them all installed, then you have to align them so they're all four in alignment. And I haven't looked at the instructions on how to do that yet. So we shall see. Oh wow, multi-wheel bolt pattern. Lovely. So it's whack-a-mole time, or fit the square peg into the round hole. Guess which one is which? There's nothing I see in the manual that says which set of these 12, 13 holes to use for a Suzuki Kingquad. Okay, I'm going to get a real tape measure. Throwing about 7/16. By about 4 3/4. Okay, I don't know if you can see this or not, but the stud is right there in that hole. So the lower left, upper in the middle, and lower on the right, on the top lug nut. And the rest of them fit in there. That one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay, we're on the left rear side, and this side actually went on fairly much without an issue, maybe because I knew how it's supposed to go on. So I'm ready to put the undercarriage on, and I'm not going to bore you with that, lining up those lug bolt holes. But as soon as I get both sides mounted, there's a stabilizer bar that has to be mounted on each side. So I'll come back after I get this jack out of the way and show you that part. I'll try and attach this stabilizer bar to that screw. Whoa. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna have to, that's 18 millimeter, maybe a 19. I gotta loosen this nut so I can spin this in. Otherwise, I am never gonna get that attached. Here. Anyway, there's nothing in the instruction manual about having to loosen this up and adjust it. Wow. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, that loosened it. And there's nothing in the instruction manual that says to tighten these down, but they're barely on there. So I'm going to tighten them before we're done, and hopefully that doesn't screw anything up. Because that nylon lock nut has barely got any bite on here at all. Boy, you got to really thread this down some. Okay, so if we get too carried away, this part has to go on here. Slides up into there. Spacer. And a flat washer. And this is a nylock lock nut. It's also got a flange washer built into it. It's 17. I don't know if it's going to show on the camera, but this spacer up on top has about 1/4 of an inch of play. So I'm going to try and get that tightened up out of there. Son of a bitch. Ha! I don't think that's coming off of there. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this for now. There's a lug nut. I had to roll this thing forward so I can get wrenches on them, but I need to jack it back up again so I can make sure that these undercarriages, as the manufacturer calls them, the track hubs, are able to get flush all the way up against the wheel hubs that are part of the ATV. So I'm going to jack it back up again. Now I don't know if you can see that track is moving quite a bit there. Alright, I should be able to get these lug nuts tightened up now. I got the stabilizer bar connected on the other side, and I tightened those 2 bolts too while I was under there. Wonderful instructions they have on the manual here, because they don't address that at all. Spinning that eye bolt in and out, maybe it'll be addressed when I get to the alignment portion. I don't know, we'll see. So I had to pull this forward a few inches to get those lug nuts to rotate where I could get a wrench on them. So I'm going to get that done, check things out, and then we'll get started on the front. Oh, by the way, this is the left front. Okay, this guard, both sides has to come off. Guard, skid plate, whatever you want to call it. The good news is, unlike the rears, I don't have to disassemble the A-arm to get this to work, I think, according to the instruction sheet. That is got an insert there, so I line the bolt up, and that way we'll be able to tighten it. Will it hold? We'll see. Get that out of the way. Instructions show the bolts coming up through the bottom. Seems kind of weird to me. Instructions say, position the bottom part of the anchor bracket, 2-3, underneath the lower suspension arm. Position the top part, 4-5, over the suspension arm so that the tension slips into the mortise cut in the bottom part. Insert the M10 by 50 millimeter bolts through the bottom and secure the two parts together with the nuts provided. Tighten assembly to 37 foot-pounds of torque. Refer to figure 13. See? Nothing about adjusting this back and forth. Using the wheel nuts provided, secure undercarriages to front wheel hubs. The procedures and precautions are the same for the rear. See figure 9. Figure 9 was the figure for the rear hubs. I want to show you something. These are also labeled inside. So on the left you can see the wheels turn. That's front steering wheel, front steering axle. So this is saying this is the left front. I don't know if the camera will fit in here. Left front to this. Well, these front tracks are definitely lighter than the rear ones, but I don't know if that's really saying much. Phone ran out of storage when I was doing the other side, but this side here, two clamshell pieces went on just like the other side did. Oh, there we go. Alright, down we go. Alright, stabilizer bars are attached. They're not tightened down yet. Still have to install one lug nut on each side and then tighten all four of them down. So I'm going to have to move this to rotate those track hubs so I can get a wrench on the lug bolt. So I'll get that done and then I'll come back and we'll look at the footrest guards. So these are the footrest protectors. And there's no real rhyme or reason how these are supposed to go. To get a better understanding what I'm talking about, they've got these holes in here, which the U-bolts are supposed to go through, and none of them line up. You know, and you're supposed to put a U-bolt through this plastic, and that's gonna hold. Yeah, I don't think so. So their instructions in the manual aren't worth a crap. I'm gonna have to take this by the dealer and say, I'm from Missouri, so show me. Just kidding about the Missouri part, but yeah. I noticed I was getting contact. I took this out for a test. When I turn the handlebars and hitting the bumps, those tracks start contacting the inside of that fender wall. So I'm going to have to trim all this out. That's how much I cut off. About like that. Okay, that's how much I took out on this side. That's how it looks there. And that's how it looks on that side. Alright, so it's too hard to film this down underneath here while I'm adjusting, but adjusting the angle of attack, you have to loosen this nut here, that one there, and then you have to spin this, and that moves the eye bolt in and out. And you're, according to the manual, you're supposed to leave that end, as in, I forgot what they call that, but that has to be pointing in towards the middle of the quad. And there's no real explanation of why. So, there you have it. And so these angle A-arm brackets, they reduce that ground clearance 2 inches underneath that nut with the cotter pin through it. And that bolt sticking down another 2.5 inches. That's all going to have to come out unless I find a way to put a nut in there and reverse that bolt assembly. But at this point, maybe for next year I'll figure something out, but it is what it is. Same thing over there. So not quite through with the alignment. I've got to do the toe in, toe out. Just quickly with the instruction manual, here's the directions for doing an angle of attack in 10 5/8 inches off that stick laying on top of the wheels. And that nut, which I showed you earlier, part 2, and what do they call that? The part number 3 is the what? It says by rotating the steering limiter support plate on the stabilizer arm. Item number 3, which is item number 3. Stabilizer arms of front track should steering limiter support plate that is bent. The plate should be positioned towards inwards towards the vehicle. Blah blah blah. And angle of attack on the trailing arms is different. Oh, sorry. That's rigid axle. Angle attack on independent suspension. Make some adjustments, blah blah blah. Basically, there's a rubber cone right here. It wants to make sure that it's snug against this bracket here, between there and there, without any slop or play. Okay, now to adjust the front steering, they want me to go in there and start cranking on my tie rods by loosening the collar, blah blah blah. So it has to be within, what is our spec called for here? 1/8 of an inch from the front to the back, or it could cause damage to the tracks. Alright, so I'm going to get under there and try and simulate taking that measurement. Measure the distance inside the front wheels on the front track system. See figures, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to get my tape measure. And then I'm going to measure the distance inside the rear wheels on the front track system. And do the same thing. And it has to be within 1/8 of an inch, or I have to go and start cranking on these rods. Wonderful. Here we go. No, that's about 1/4 inch off. So, do we want to take it up all on one side, or split the difference in half and half? Well, looking at this, it looks like the front of this track is pointed outwards, versus this one seems to be kind of aligned. Apparently I left the record on pause, so didn't get to record that, but my recommendation is, that was a real pain. Don't go one turn at first, go a 1/4 turn. I had to go back and forth a few times, and just eyeballing this, I'm not sure it lines up right, front to back. But all right, there's a better shot of everything set up. That I've already taken it up to the mountains and had a test run. So you'll have to look at test run part 1 on the next video coming up as soon as I get it edited. But yeah, worked out well. Happy with it so far. You'll have to stay tuned for more videos through the winter, hopefully. Oh, and so there you go. ATV track installation on a 2008 Suzuki 750 Kingquad with Armstrong steering. As in, I better make sure I use my Wheaties or eat my Wheaties, because I ain't got no power steering. Catch you on the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace out.